Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Craig Stern. I was doing a live stream earlier, trying to show off the campaign editor for Together in Battle, and, well, here's the thing. It was my first ever time live streaming on YouTube, and it just didn't come out very well. Specifically, the audio balance was just completely off. You couldn't really hear things. And it turns out that was because I decided, for whatever reason, not to use my headset. I decided I was going to try a more natural approach where I wasn't wearing this gadget on my head. Unfortunately, what that meant is that the webcam microphone picked up all of the audio coming from the game, and you couldn't really hear me super well, which is not ideal. So I'm just going to re-record this here in the hope that it will in fact result in a more watchable video for those of you at home who really just want to get a nice overview of the Together in Battle campaign editing suite, such as it exists right now. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. A quick note before we get started. The game is still in alpha, so while the campaign editing suite is quite powerful and quite capable even now, there's still work left to be done. It is by no means finished, and what you will see here does not in any way represent the final product. Let me just go ahead and take care of this real fast. We'll just get rid of these old custom campaigns, and let's go to the campaign editor. So as you can see, the campaign editor has a little welcome message where it kind of walks you through the process of starting your own campaign. It says, "Welcome, this is the campaign editor. Here you can create campaigns and everything that goes into them. From characters to battles to cutscenes and dialogue trees, we've got it all. To begin, click the new campaign button above." Well, who am I to argue with that thing, right? Let's do it. New campaign, let's name this Just Some Campaign. I don't know. Oh no, we can't use a comma, because this is actually going to create a folder. Let's just name this INO. Proceed, please. Congratulations, you've just created a new campaign. Now it's time to start building it out with characters, cutscenes, and battles. Every campaign begins with a cutscene named Introduction. In your introduction, you'll present the player with some exposition to set up the story, as well as setting up your player's starting roster of characters. To begin, let's create a few characters for your player to use. Click the New Character button on the left. In the character editor, you can create the characters by hand, or click the Random Character button to have the game generate them for you. Let's do it. So, there's a lot we could talk about with character creation. I'm just going to run through this real fast. Most characters we create are unique. They are named characters that are persistent. However, we can also create generic characters. These are characters without their own portraits, without a unique name. They don't really persist. They're just kind of like, like enemies or NPC ally characters that are just kind of generic, and they don't, they're not like a part of the team throughout the whole game. To start with, let's create a unique character. There are 6 species. If you're familiar with the Telepath games, you probably know these species already. Let's just go with human, because we all know what those are, right? Swordsman is sort of our default melee class. Let's pick a feminine presenting person. This portrait is fine. We can just kind of keep clicking randomize and keep getting different options, though. The game will just kind of keep spitting them out as long as we keep clicking. That's a pretty cool one. Skin is... She's been spending a little too much time in the tanning salon, though. With hair like that, I think that's maybe a more appropriate skin tone. Details and accessories. Let's give her a flower, like a rose, in her hair. And, well, she's got a tattoo. Let's give her a scar. Maybe like that scar. Right over there on her cheek. Real classy. All right. One other thing we can do is choose her expression. She's got kind of a withering default expression, and that's actually okay. I'm fine with that for her. But, if we want to give her a different sort of personality, we can set her default expression to be something really very different. Quizzical is actually okay. Let's give her a quizzical default expression. And we can have the game randomize names for her. Joanna Goodbolt, Brooke Hagglegleam, Callista Maplechant, Bianca Jumbletoes? Oh, we're going with that. Bianca Jumbletoes it is. Growths, they're kind of explained here. It's like having a deck of cards. And for each point of growth a stat has, there is one card in the deck. The game shuffles the deck when the character levels up, picks the top two, for the most part, from that deck. So, like, for instance, right, there's gonna be 3 health cards, 3 energy cards, 2 strength cards, 1 reflexes card, and 1 counter limit card, for a total of 10 cards, right? 3 plus 3 is 6, plus 2 is 8, plus 1 is 10. So there's going to be a 1 in 10 chance of drawing reflexes, 1 in 10 chance of drawing counterattacks, a 1 in 5 chance of her getting strength, and a slightly less than 1 in 3 chance of getting health or energy every time she levels up. But unlike Fire Emblem, these aren't independent probabilities, right? These are the chances for a stat to be drawn. So let's say, right, the first one she draws when she levels up is health. All 3 health are removed from the deck. At that point, all of the remaining probabilities are those numbers out of 7, right? So the best chance she has at any point of getting reflexes or a counter limit is 1 out of 7 on an independent draw. Hopefully that made sense. If not, I'm sorry. I'll try again later. But not in this video. Okay, so starting stats. These are derived from their growths and the character class of the character that we're dealing with here. Bianca's got some pretty standard starting stats. This is all good. Her strength is a little below average. Let's bump that up by 1. Accuracy 100, that's default for a telepath game. Speed of 4. The average speed is actually bumped down by 1 from Telepath Tactics. I wanted to be able to make more condensed maps in this game where character movement didn't make them feel super claustrophobic. And I found that bumping down the speed also had some salutary effects. It made movement abilities like sprint more important. And it also made skills like shove and pull more important. So I feel pretty good about making 4 like the standard human move speed in this. But if you don't like it, you can bump it up. You can be like, screw it, I'm giving her a speed of 5. I don't even care what Craig says. And that's fine by me. You do what you want. One thing you can do is you can randomize character stats for a specific target level. Maybe we don't want Bianca to start out at level 1. Maybe we want her to start out at level 5. And just like that, the game has automatically leveled her up 4 times. And it's done it using those growths we defined in the previous step. Because it's quasi-random, we can redo this. We can, like, re-roll, and this is a different level 5 Bianca. And we can kind of keep doing that until we get a result we want. Let's proceed, though. We don't need to keep doing that. Everything pretty much in the character creator we can individually randomize. Right here, we've decided that, okay, Bianca has a lot of equipment masteries. She can use swords, light armor, small shields, mangoshes. She can use medium armor, which is really quite helpful. In addition to you being able to use swords, she has the shove skill, which is very handy. Skill progression, these are a series of levels and things she learns at those levels. So, right now she's level 5. When she hits 7, she will learn pull. When she hits 11, she will get dodge proficiency. At 14, she'll learn sprint, then feint, then strength proficiency, and so on. I think she should really learn sprint a lot sooner, though. Let's give her strength or sprint at level 6. Maybe at 8, she'll learn pull, and boy, 17 is just way too late to learn feint. Let's give her feint at level 11 and dodge proficiency at level 14. It doesn't actually matter if these are in order. The game will handle it no matter what. Let's confirm and continue. Inventory. This is fun. This is where we give her items. Bianca, she's a real fan of cake. Let's just give her a cake. And, she's also kind of a wino. Let's give her some wine. What else? Bianca, oh, we could give her all kinds of cool swords. Let's just give her an iron sword, though. And maybe some chainmail. She has medium armor mastery, so she can actually use this thing. She has a sword counterattack, and that is appropriate because she is a swordsman. So now we're getting into individualized character dialogue. We can give characters barks that are situational to things that are going on in battle. So when the battle starts, someone gives their deployment bark as kind of like their intro to what's going on. So Bianca, well, she's a bit of a hard ass, and she intends to savor this battle. So that could be her deployment bark, or it could be, I don't care who they are, I'm not going to let them hurt my friends. Or, I'll never get past being nervous before combat, it seems. Or, alright, Bianca, time to focus. It won't matter how distractingly cute everyone is if you're cut down. I've sighted the enemy. That's a very straightforward one. This is, yeah. Yeah, let's go with this. I'm ready for duty, Commander. Very, very straightforward. Gives us lots of room to adjust her characterization. And, yeah, we can just kind of, these are attack barks. These are things that she says before she attacks. We just kind of go through and we can, fill these out. We're not going to make her a healer, so heal barks are unnecessary. Same for building. She's not going to, be building barricades or anything. Victory barks. She will need these. These are appropriate. Cool, cool. Defeat barks are basically death monologues of the sort that you see in Fire Emblem. Let's see. That's a real feisty one. I like this one. You'll never take me alive! Oh, wait. Very good. Alright, we'll confirm that. Camp activities. If you've played the demo, you already know what these are. These are the things that characters do in the evenings when you give them free reign. Let's just randomize some. Okay. She can rest, she can clean, she can practice, talk to other people. She can spend her time worrying about stuff, or she can read philosophy. Okay, so she's very talkative in this variant, and she also likes knitting. That sounds about right for Bianca. Although, actually, no, I don't think she is talkative. Oh. So here she's talkative, she likes to hunt. You know what, let's make her less talkative. She doesn't seem like a very talkative person. We could have her, just sort of talk about how bad things are going to be and how everyone is doomed. But that doesn't really seem like her either. She does seem like the sort to get in an extra chance of practice. And reading books? Sure. And voila, there it is. We have Bianca Jumbletoes. Let's go ahead and save her. And so you can just kind of keep going like this, right? You can just go and create a new character and just keep creating characters until you've got a whole slate of playable characters. But if we want to save time, we can roll them up using the random character function. We say whether we want the character to be generic or unique, and we choose all of the potential species the character can be. We don't want spirits, and we don't want golems, but humans, licit, shadowling, spriggets, those all seem fine to me. Let's see what we get. Wyatt Castlesworth, a Psy healer. And he's only level 1. Okay, he seems like a good character. Let's save him. Who's next? Chitelet. A level 1 red sprigget. Alright, that seems like a cool character. I'll save her. Next character, who do we got? Myron Wineshrieker. That is a name, boy. Yeah, alright, sure. Myron, you're on the team. Who else we got? Bludis Tail. Okay, alright. Get a little Hasul? Gomer Cattlenot. Oh my, he's rather powerful. He might be a bad guy. We'll save him for use as a bad guy. That's the thing about these characters that you create in here. You're not actually deciding if they're going to be allies or not at this stage. You're just creating them. It's only when you create the battles that you decide whether they are, in fact, allies or enemies. Okay. This is also a fairly powerful character. Whimperling, we'll save you for maybe use as some sort of enemy. Phineas. Phineas. I love the hair and the sort of not very impressive mustache. Good stuff. Gosh, that is such a nice assortment of abilities. Yeah, we're gonna save you. So let's do one last thing. Let's create a generic character to serve as just like an enemy. We definitely do not want our generic enemies to be level 17. Let's try rolling up one more. Level 3 Psi Healer. Well, I mean, okay. Sure, Imperial Psi Healer. Why not? We can also just, create one ourselves real fast. Generic, human, axe fighter. Changing. This is a thing to note. You really only want to use changing with generic characters because it just flips a coin, right? Either the character presents feminine or masculine whenever they're spawned. So with the generic characters, right, you're going to be spawning a lot of them, so changing means you will get a more or less even mix of gender representation. Since the other enemy is Imperial, let's say this is also an Imperial Brute. Very good. No, we really don't want you to have massive energy growths. This is all fine. Maybe a little slash resistance growth. Maybe a little reflexes growth. That's good. Good. Since you're an enemy, we'll give you less than normal health, just to make you a little easier to deal with. Good stuff. We are also going to up their strength to 5, and I have a specific reason for doing this. It's because we're actually going to give this character the axe skill to start with. This is not something I normally advise doing for characters that use equipment, because when we give a character a skill like this, they have that skill at all times, regardless of whether they have a weapon equipped. In this case, however, we don't want every enemy to drop an axe, right? So some of them are just going to have the axe skill, and they're just going to have 5 strength, and they're not going to drop an axe, and they're not going to be carrying an axe in battle. Technically. Skill progression. Oh, sure, let's give them, maybe like at level 4, let's give them Armor End, and maybe at like level 8, we'll give them Throw Axe. And maybe at level 12, we'll give them, I don't know, Overhead Chop. That seems good. And I guess we could give them Light Armor Mastery in case we want to have them equip stuff, and maybe Small Shield. Alright. Cool. Inventory. With generic characters like this, it's generally best to leave the inventory empty and just give items to them on a case-by-case basis in the map editor. Counterattacks, yes, we definitely want them to have an axe counterattack. And voila, there we go, the Imperial Brute. Let's save them, and let's get out of here. So as you can see, we've got this whole selection of characters that we've created. Now it's time to make use of them. Now that we've created some starting characters, it's time to create a roster. Unique player-controlled characters that are in a roster will persist from scene to scene. The game will save their progress, and they'll grow and improve as the player advances through the campaign. Go ahead and click Introduction to the left. You'll be brought into the cutscene editor, where you can edit the introduction cutscene and add the player's unique characters to Roster 0. Let's do that. So this is the cutscene editor. You could actually just make a game only in the cutscene editor, just like essentially make it a visual novel with like dialogue trees and stuff. Um, that would probably appeal to some folks. Personally, I like also having the battles. Um, so anyway, let's go ahead and create our roster, right? We start off with roster 0. Roster 0 is the default. You can create different rosters for different like situations in a campaign, and you can like set the roster of characters to match the situation. Like you could have like a Final Fantasy VI style, like, oh no, the party is splitting up, and then like one storyline branch has some of those characters in a roster, and then another roster represents a different story branch, and so on. We're going to keep it simple here, though. We're just going to have one roster. It's going to consist of Bianca Jumbletoes, Wyatt Castlesworth, he's our healer, if I recall, Chidelet, let's see, who else? Oh yes, Phineas for sure. And I think Blutus Tail. I think that's a good starting roster. I feel like Myron Weintrieger was also a possibility. Yeah, we'll add him. Why not? So the order in which you put characters into a roster matters, especially if there isn't a deployment interface in a battle, because it will go from top to bottom, like just spawning characters in the spots. You'll see what I mean in a second. So you want your starting characters, like the people who show up first, to actually be first in the roster. We'll proceed. Very good. Let's just write a little narration for this introduction here. The Imperials are coming. That's what the letter said. Damn, I muttered. Better tell Bianca. You're probably wondering why I'm using double asterisks. Due to the way the files are saved, if you actually use quotation marks here, it can cause problems. So I use double asterisks. The game, when it sees those, it automatically converts them into quotation marks in-game. And you can see that right there on the screen. The Imperials are coming, that's what the letter said. Damn, I muttered. Better tell Bianca. We can change the background here. We don't have to have just a black screen. Let's go ahead and go for Castle Knight. That's a good background. Very good. You will notice here it says frame 1 out of 2. We have multiple frames that we can use in the cutscenes. So let's go ahead and save, just so we don't lose any progress if something goes wrong. Let's edit dialogue. So this is the dialogue tree editor. This is the sort of default dialogue tree that you get. Let's say you are the speaker. Bianca! Bianca! Holy crap! The Imperials are on their way. Let's go ahead. So you will notice that there are two sets of things below all this text stuff, right? We get to name the branch, right? This is branch 0. We get to name it. We get to name the speaker. We get to change the text. We get to run script actions. These have specific effects that hook into the game engine. Run just runs a script. We have a script sort of by default called start game values, and by default on branch 0 of the first dialog, it runs that script and allows us to set starting values for the campaign. Let's go ahead and add a second action here. We'll just add portrait. Reference name, we'll call this portrait Bianca. Portrait name, Bianca Jumbletoes. This will cause the game to actually look for Bianca and find her portrait. And we'll have her facing left with army color blue. We don't really need to mess with these other options here. We'll just stick with that for now. If you want to mess with those other options, though, every action has an explanation that you see in this box up here, where like all of the different attributes are explained, and you're kind of given a guide for how to use them. Let's say proceed. So we've added Bianca's portrait facing left, so she'll appear on the right side of the screen. And replies. So this only has one reply. We don't want it to be next scene, because that that would just end the dialogue immediately, and we want Bianca to say something. So we'll just have this be continue. You don't actually have to put anything for a reply if it's the only reply, but just for our own reference, we'll just have it say continue. And sort of the default reply type is next branch. It just takes us directly to the next branch in the dialogue tree. As soon as it's clicked, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. So that's branch 0. Now let's go ahead and make branch 1. Speaker should be Bianca Jumbletoes. Damn. Those accursed Imperials don't know when to give up. I'll assemble the men. And we'll just call this branch name reply. Why? Why not? It's not important to name branches when you're just doing like a linear dialogue like this, but when you have a branching tree, it's very helpful because you can actually reference different branches by their branch name, which makes it so much easier to just organize these dialogue trees. We don't really want a next branch reply on this one. We just want to end the conversation. In fact, what we could do, this one we actually could use, we could go for next scene. Because we're just going to go straight into a battle after this. So let's say proceed, very good. Oh, I misspelled Bianca there, that's not ideal. Okay, we don't actually need this branch, so let's delete it. Proceed, very good. This is the start game values script that is referenced in this run action here in branch 0. As you can see, it sets the start date for the campaign, sets the player's starting money, starting food, sets the default name for the player's army. Right now they're called the Good Guys, and that. You know what? Let's name them the Anti-Imperial Squad. That sounds about right. Very good. Okay. I think we're about set on this. So let's exit the dialogue editor, and we'll save the scene. Let's just so we can kind of like visualize what this is going to look like. Okay. So it doesn't actually have Bianca's portrait loaded up here at the moment. I think that's because yeah, I'm just going to take a guess and say that it will work in the game, but maybe not. We'll find out. Reminder, this is still an alpha, so there are still a few things I'm working out here. One thing we definitely want to make sure we do before we leave is to set our next scene. We're just going to say the next scene is Battle 1, right? And we're going to create a battle, and when the scene ends, it's going to look for that scene named Battle 1. Let's in fact just copy it here with Control-C, and we're going to set that as the name of our first battle. We can also set the music while we're here. Bad Omen seems appropriate, right? It's bad that the Imperials are coming. We'll start things off with some nice tense music. And we're good. We'll save the scene, and let's exit. Now it's time to create that battle we talked about. We're going to go, instead of new cutscene, we're going to go to new map. This is going to open up the map editor. Here we're just going to Control-V, paste the name of our map, And we're going to make this, we'll make this 12 by 12. Or maybe even like 15 by 12, yeah. A nice sized map. Let's set music for this. Maybe Against All Odds, or... Yeah, we've got a fair selection of music here. Oh, we could go with this one, or we could go with like, some other stuff. We actually have this old school one from the old Telepath RPG games. You could use that if you wanted. Um, let's see, which one do we want? We have so many options. We could go with even like stuff from like Telepath RPG Servants of God, or yeah, let's go with that. That's nice. That's fun. I haven't heard that one in a while. Victory Aura. What do we want the player to get as a reward when they win the battle? I don't know. Let's say 200. That seems nice. We don't have a next scene yet, but we'll just say ending, right? And we can create a new scene called ending. Objectives. Defeat all enemies is always a safe objective, unless you're planning something special. You will notice there are two different submenus accessible from the map settings screen: Armies and Conditions. Armies, this is where we set all of the armies that are in the map, right? So by default, every map starts with two armies. Army number 0, which is blue and is player controlled, and army number 1, which is red and is AI controlled. So remember how we had in starting game values, we had that thing that set a string for the name of the player's army? And I believe it's team name. I think that was the name of the string. We can reference that here by just typing in the special character hyphen, capital STR, colon, the name of our string variable, end hyphen. That will cause the game to look for the string variable named team name, and whenever it finds it, it will replace this whole thing with the value that is set under that variable name. For Army 2, we will call them Imperials. Very good. Confirm. Confirm. Let's save. I'm actually going to go check, though. I want to make sure that I didn't get that variable name wrong. I think it's team name, but let's just double check. It is team name. So where we have hyphen str colon team name end hyphen, it's going to take all that and it's going to swap in the anti-imperial squad. Very good. Nope, we didn't even make any changes. We're fine. Let's go back to battle here. All right, so let's go ahead and work on this map. One cool thing, I mean, there's a lot of cool things about the map editor, but one cool thing about it is you can have it automatically generate terrain for you. Let's say we want to have it be mostly grass and dirt. We don't want any elevation above 1, but we do perhaps want some water. We can, so water is considered a hazard type. We can set the hazard frequency and how much map area it takes up. So let's say we just want one instance of water on the map, but it takes up a lot of area. We can also have it automatically generate the player's army spawn points for us. So let's say the player army is going to be 5 characters. The player's army is army 0. We hit proceed. Boom. Just like that, the game has given us a map that we can kind of start working on. This isn't perfect. You will notice that the game does not currently handle transitions between 3 terrain types particularly gracefully. Like this tile here, right? It's got water on one side and grass on the other. There isn't a good transition for that, so it's just chosen to transition from water, and there's not like anything that really handles the transition to grass in addition to that. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the eyedropper, we're going to get dirt, and we are going to fix these, and voila, just like that, it's all better. We can still go ahead and paint in more grass if we decide this is like too much dirt. We could even just be like, you know what, screw it. We're just going to have grass all around this, and that works too. So let's say that since these guys are defenders, we are going to have them defending their castle that we just saw them in the cutscene. Let's go ahead and have the castle be like over here. Alright. And let's paint some dirt so we don't have any ugly transitions near the castle. Very good. Alright, we're looking pretty okay here so far. Now we can add some objects to the map. Objects are real handy. They're things that we can just stick on the map to make it look better. Some of them are 3D, like these new castle walls that we've created. That's not what I wanted. Undo. There we go. Yeah, I thought that was a vertical one. I guess I need to work on that, huh? Castle wall vertical. Okay, good stuff. Then we're going to need castle wall northeast for this corner here. And then let's go ahead and find a portcullis. Perfect. Alright, so that's our little castle over there. We could put other things in it, like, we could stick a brazier in there. You know, other objects that strike our fancy. Maybe we'll have an altar. Why not? Cool beans. So now it's time to start placing some enemies. Or we could also just keep putting objects, but let's talk about how to place enemies. So, placing characters is very simple. We just decide where we want them to be, what army we want them to be on, what direction we want them to face, and who we want them to be. So these are all what are called from player roster spawns. Right, this is Army 0, as you can see in this little edit character window here. It's Army 0, facing up, and it's just a player spawn point, right? That's the name of the character. Because it's not any particular character, right, it's going to refer to the roster that we created in the introduction. Right, it's going to pull characters from the roster and stick them in these spawn points in order from, first to last. We can't do that with Army 1, though, because we don't have a roster for Army 1. Instead, we need to place down enemies by hand. So we're going to place some Imperial Brutes. And while we're at it, let's also place down an Imperial Psi Healer or 2. Yeah, that's pretty good. So now that we've got that, it's time to spruce up this map a little more. Let's add some trees. And they're actually different kinds of trees. We don't have to just go with those. We can add some ginkgo biloba trees. We could add some evergreen trees. The possibilities are pretty vast. We can also add other things, like we can add a bush. We could add snake root. We could add, we could add a sapling, just like a little baby tree. All kinds of cool stuff. We could even add a big old a banyan tree. Those are pretty cool. We could also add other things, like, for instance, we could add barricades or barrels. Let's add some wooden barricades here to stall the enemy advance a bit. Good stuff. All right. And with that done, maybe we'll add a boulder. Yeah, just have like a just something to like, make this feel like a real place and not just like a contrived contrived little like battlefield. We can also move our characters around. We can just be like, that's too close to the enemy. Let's back this all up a bit. Good stuff. All right, so this is a pretty good start. Let's save the map. Now, you heard me mention earlier that we can give characters items in battle. That's still true. Let's go ahead and give this person some coins. This character is going to drop 50 coins when they get killed. And this healer here, his healer is going to drop 150 coins. Let's see, what else do we want? We probably want to talk about tags a little bit. Tags are things that change enemy behavior. So since this is the very first battle, we're going to put some passive tags on these guys in the back so that they do not just bum rush the player right from the word go. We're going to have them just hang out for a little bit. And you actually, we're going to move over here. And you're also going to be passive to start. What the passive tag does is it makes it so enemies don't just run straight for the player, they instead wait for the player to walk into attack range. We can then create dialogue. Let's say, I don't know, let's call this become aggressive. And we will make this trigger on turn 3. Alright, I just realized one other thing we have to do before we finish this up is we have to give these characters ID tags. So what we actually have to do here is we actually have to preface these with add, I just remembered. So it's going to be add passive, add ID 101. That is going to make a big difference, and you'll see why in just a moment. Alright, so I've got 101, 102, and 103 here. Those tags allow us to reference particular enemies on the map, even if they don't have unique names. Right, so we're going to add a branch here. And we're going to add let's just have speaker be Imperial Psi Healer. The game is smart enough to actually find the Imperial Psi Healer on the map and make him the speaker when you do this. Actions, we're going to add speaker portrait facing, I don't know, doesn't really matter, we'll just have him facing right. All the other attributes are optional, we don't need to worry about them. And the Imperial Psi Healer is going to say, get them! And we're going to have 3 more actions on this. They're all going to be of the remove tag variety. So, character number 1 we're going to remove the tag from is ID 101, right? That's going to have the game know, oh, the character that is tagged ID 101, that is specifically who we're looking for. The tag type is passive, right? That's the thing we want to remove. And we don't really need to worry about the other stuff. So that's pretty much it. Remove tag ID 101 passive. Proceed, alright? Then we're going to do the same exact thing for ID 102 and ID 103. Proceed, very good. We did it. That's all we gotta do. By default, this has a next branch reply that's like continue. Because there's no next branch, it's just going to end the conversation. You can accomplish the same thing by just having the reply type be end conv. In this circumstance, they will both do the same thing. Very good. Let's exit. Let's save. And I think we're ready to test this thing. Let's go ahead and test it, shall we? Let's go ahead and set our test roster. Since we're not starting from the introduction, there isn't actually a roster for us to use. So let's just go ahead and drop these characters in here. Yeah, Myron and Bloodus Tail. Proceed. And look at that, just like we predicted, our team name, the Anti-Imperial Squad, has shown up instead of just STR team name. Wyatt says, "Call me an Abagus, you can count on me." Good stuff. So, yep, there's our battlefield, there are our enemies. Very good. Bianca, why don't you come over here? Chitelet. Myron. Wyatt. Alright, and the turn. Yeah, we're fine. The Imperials, it's their turn. And would you look at that? Only the two characters that haven't been tagged passive advanced up the battlefield. It's almost like we planned it that way, isn't it? Alright. Now that we know that's working, we'll quit. We've done our job here. Our work here is done. We could continue to elaborate on the battle and add reinforcements and stuff, but I think this is a good enough intro that you get the idea. Let's exit. So there's two other editors that I could cover here. They're pretty self-explanatory, though. The skill editor and the item editor. I'm just going to go over them very briefly. The skill editor, I don't know, let's call this Super Duper Strike. Type slash. Type here refers to the element of the skill. So as you see here in this little explanatory box, a slash skill will attack the target spaces. The damage will be mitigated by the slash resistance stat. Cool. Very good. We get to pick an image that we like for Super Duper Strike. That's a good image. Most skills affect health, but you can have skills that affect other things, like energy or mental resistance or whatever. Any stat really can be affected. Super Duper Strike should depend upon sword. This means that if a character, is say a swordsman, right, and they need to have a sword equipped in order to have the sword skill, every advanced sword skill will look to make sure that that character actually has the sword skill before they can use it, right? So, for instance, let's say that Bianca Jumbletoes doesn't have any weapon equipped, right? She won't have the sword skill available to her. So she won't have Super Duper Strike available to her without a sword equipped either, because it depends upon sword. That's how that works. Run scripts, you can run custom scripts when you have a character use a skill. You can do all kinds of crazy stuff with this. I'm not going to get into it right now, but just know, pretty much any custom effect you can dream up, you can tie to skills. Tooltip description. This is gonna hurt. This is just gonna, this just makes it show up when you mouse over the skill button. Post usage behavior, end turn. If we want this to be a skill that a character can do stuff after, we can have can move afterwards, right? So things like the bowman's bow attack or the cavalier's lance attack, those are can move style abilities. Use once is even better than can move. It means you can use that skill once and no more that turn, but you can use other stuff, and you can continue moving. And then there's Unlimited, which, unless there's an energy cost associated with the skill, definitely don't pick that one. We'll just stick with End Turn for now. Cost here, by the way, that's where you set the energy cost for the skill. We'll have Super Duper Strike have an energy cost of 2. Strength Damage Multiplier, we will make this 1.25. That means it's going to take the character's strength with their weapon boost taken into account, and it's going to deal 125% that amount in damage by default before factoring in enemy/resistance. Accuracy modifier, 100 is fine. Knockback, sure, let's give this a knockback of 1. We can have it impart status effects if we want. Sure, we'll have this cause stunned. Movement type, it's not relevant. Range of 1, makes sense for a sword skill. Area of effect, not going to mess with that, just know like this is a thing you can do. The number on the left is the size of each side of a square. And then you can kind of be like, okay, 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, 1, 0, 1, 0. And oh, look at that. We've just effectively defined a cross-shaped area of effect for the attack. This would actually be a terrible idea for an attack with a range of 1, though, because it hits there, which means that this will also hit the person using it. So really what we want to do is make that a 0. And that's actually a little better. That way it doesn't hit the attacker as well. We should make this cost more. Let's make this cost 5. Anything with an AoE like that and status effects, that needs a substantial energy cost. In fact, 6. Let's make it 6. Very good. Alright, that's pretty much all we're going to mess with. One more thing, I guess. We will copy the visual and audio effects from just the regular sword attack. Nice and straightforward. We'll save this, and we will exit. You could then go right back into the campaign editor and like just give this to a character, right? It's now accessible in the other editors. So let's say at level 7, you know, we don't even have to do this by hand. We can just find it right here, right? There it is, Super Duper Strike. 14 damage, 6 energy. This is gonna hurt. And we'll say she learns it at level 7. Voila. Easy as pie. Save the character and exit. Last thing to note is the item editor. I don't know. Let's Pop-Tart? Sure. This is going to be a consumable. As you can see here, there are different usability types. Pretty much everything that like is related to a part of the body is equipment. Consumables are things you just use. They're like, you know, potions or vulneraries or, you know, depending on what game series your reference point is. Let's see. Do we have anything that looks like a Pop-Tart? Not really. Let's just use these cookies. Okay. And let's make it Pop-Tarts so it's a little less obviously stupid. No mastery required to equip because it is a consumable. Commonality, let's say these are pretty common. Make them 8. Value, this determines what it costs to buy this thing in the shop. Let's say these are worth 12, sure. Durability, you can only use this once. If you leave the durability at 0, then that item will literally never run out. Which would be a strange thing for Pop-Tarts to do. We can, just like with skills, we can attach custom scripts to our items here so that whenever they're used, it runs a script. Tooltip description. They are cheap, but reasonably tasty. Let's see, we could have the cookies grant a skill, but I don't think that makes a ton of sense. We could have it impart a status effect. That also, I don't know, maybe. Maybe you get a sugar high and that makes you lucid. Then you can see the description there. It's a plus 25% psi and plus 1 reflexes for the lucid status effect. And maybe the sugar high also makes you strengthened. Plus 25% to strength. And maybe it also has a status effect, or a stat effect, I should say. Maybe because Pop-Tarts aren't good for you, those other 2 status effects are offset by damaging the character. Damage, plus 2. Not anything too bad, but enough to be annoying, where you have to, like, think about it before you use it. Cool. We could also have it grant tags. We're not going to mess with tags right now for the most part. We could have it grant experience. I don't really think it makes a ton of sense to have Pop-Tarts grant a character experience. We could have it so this is a personal item that is locked to a particular character, which would be funny, but I feel like this is probably something that, like, should just be easily transferable and sellable. Let's save our item and exit. So now, once again, we could, like, go into the character editor and we could just give this item to someone. Let's say that Wyatt Castlesworth is just a big Pop-Tarts fan. Let's go ahead and stick that in his inventory. So those are cookies. The Pop-Tarts, here they are. Voila! Just FYI, it is possible in this game to create your own custom item and skill graphics. It's already supported. Right now, you have to go outside of the editor to do it. At some point, I'll see if I can, like, come up with a good way to make it so you don't have to do that. All right, folks. Well, that's pretty much it. I think that covers everything. Thanks so much for watching. This is Together in Battle. At least until the 22nd, 5 days from now, there is this alpha demo with all that stuff you just saw available for free for you to play with on Steam. By all means, please go try it out and see what you can create. I am just so curious to see what cool stuff you can come up with. And of course, if you have any questions, please go and visit me on the Sinister Design forums. I would be more than happy to help you figure out how to use these tools to create your own strategy RPG campaigns. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to wishlist Together in Battle on Steam. Bye-bye now.